It is February 22nd, and it's being reported right now that the UFC 236 event that's coming up on April 13th in Atlanta, that didn't have a main event to this point. It did have the co-main event, which is an interim title fight at middleweight, which is worth noting because the main event is going to be an interim lightweight title, which is unusual for them. Usually they go the other way around, where they'll have the bigger weight be the main event and the smaller weight be the co-main. But anyway, that fight was an interim title fight between Kelvin Gastelum and Israel Adesanya. It looks like that fight's going to happen. It looks like it's confirmed at this point. But we just got an announcement that Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier are going to headline UFC 236 for the interim lightweight title. So I'm going to go to Brett Okamoto, who broke the story. I'll go to his tweets and then go back to the story here and just kind of give some analysis on this. So he pointed out in this tweet right here that that's the fight that was announced. Then some additional context. He said he spoke to Dustin Poirier, and Dustin said that he was frustrated by the lack of clarity in the division. Booked a flight from Florida where he's training back home to Louisiana because the UFC wasn't making fights for him. Just canceled the flight, and now he's 7 weeks out from a title fight, so he's got 7 weeks to prepare for Max Holloway. He said he also talked to Dana White, and Dana said that Tony Ferguson was offered the fight against Max Holloway and turned it down, and that he's reached out to Ferguson for comment. I don't know if Tony Ferguson is going to comment on that or not, though it is worth noting that he put up an interesting tweet today. So I'll actually go through here, because the top comment when the fight was announced was, LOL, what the fuck, where's Tony Ferguson? And then the response to that was he already won the lightweight belt, but this is for the interim lightweight belt, which is kind of funny because Tony Ferguson did win the interim title against Kevin Lee, had an injury while he was doing press duty, and was stripped of the title while doing work for the UFC, which I think is kind of bizarre. And I mean, I guess it's probably legal, because if it wasn't legal, they would have challenged it in court, but seems to be kind of borderline there. But after that injury, came back, fought Anthony Pettis, and it seemed like it made sense for him to fight against Khabib Nurmagomedov. Khabib saying he isn't going to fight until November, so I guess Ferguson might be thinking he just wants to wait. It's also possible that Ferguson, who is a very big driver, didn't think that he was going to be able to make it down in 7 weeks, or at least didn't think it was worth it for whatever they were willing to pay him. Though it is interesting. That's a pin tweet. He did put up a tweet today, though, that had a screenshot from a video game. Okay, that's not right there. But it was like a screenshot from the UFC game with Conor McGregor on the other side. Now, he's been calling out Conor for a long time. It's possible that his entire point, it doesn't look here. Looks like it got deleted. But just to sum it up, it was a screenshot with him and Conor McGregor on the other side from the UFC video game. Now, that could mean a couple things. It could mean that he's been calling out Conor for a long time, and that's just a fight he wants, and that's just his way of calling him out in his own unusual way. It could also mean that maybe he's looking to get a fight booked with Conor. Although, if Dana's saying that Tony turned down this fight, it doesn't sound like Dana would be like, hey, Tony, we've got an event coming up in 7 weeks. Do you want to take the main event, or do you want to wait and get Conor? Like, it just doesn't seem like that would make sense for Dana to ask him. Like, if Conor was on the table, they probably would have just given it to Conor, or given it to Tony straight up. Seems like Conor versus Cowboy is the fight that's going to be made. So it just kind of leaves Tony hanging. And what's interesting here is that if this isn't a quick finish, if it is a quick finish and this is an April fight, in theory, you could probably get the guy back out in August or September, have them fight Tony for the interim title again, and then either November or December, then Khabib returns and they face the guy who's got the interim title at that point, whether that's Tony, Max, or Dustin. But I have no idea what the reasoning was for Tony not taking the fight and what Tony's plans are. I don't know if the Conor versus Cowboy fight's actually going to happen. That was supposedly all but confirmed according to Chael Sonnen. But I guess now that we know what the fight's going to be, there's one more comment from Dustin that I want to mention before I show the highlight of the first time these guys fought. So, again, it's worth noting that Poirier and Holloway fought each other back in 2012 at UFC 143. First round finish for Dustin Poirier by armbar, or triangle armbar. I guess he had him in a mountain triangle and snatched the arm up and got the tap off the armbar. But then what Dustin said is, Max and I were both kids 7 years ago. We've both been in the UFC fighting top competition. That's a lifetime. We're completely different fighters now, and this is a completely different fight. Max is a proven undisputed champion at featherweight. I don't even know if he's in his prime yet. He might be approaching it. He's a tough test for me, and I am for him. I have a lot of respect for Max. And then just a reminder of how that first fight went. So Justin was able to get Max up against the cage, was able to secure a takedown against him, and then absolutely dominated him on the mat. So gets him against the cage, gets the lift, double leg, quick pass to mount. He's working there for a little bit, or for a little while. Max tried to get away, ended up getting his arm snatched. And then while he was defending the armbar, he ended up getting caught in a triangle. So good armbar right here. Really nasty on the elbow, if you notice that. Looks like he could have gotten the tap there. Max is super tough, but then as he turns right into a triangle. Dustin's going for that, uses the triangle to sweep back to mount. And then the arm's just kind of sitting there, so Dustin takes it, pops his hip in. Max doesn't want to tap, but has to at that point. His elbow's getting hyperextended. And so Dustin got the win. So whether or not that's how this fight's going to go 7 years from now, it's hard to say. I don't think there's any good reason to expect it to go that way exactly. Max has had some issues early in his career with guys who were taking him down, including Conor McGregor. Conor won the first round striking, but Max was starting to catch up. Max is known for kind of starting slow, but then making his reads and then really getting better as the fight goes on. But Conor was able to take him down regardless and dominate from top. But that was still, I think that was like back in 2013, so that was still a while ago too. But since then, Max has fought some pretty good wrestlers, done a good job of staying on the outside and not getting taken down. And if he does get taken down, getting right back up. Dustin, though he's not known as a wrestler from his pedigree, he's obviously worked on his wrestling a lot in his MMA training. But I figure this is going to be a fight that's going to be taking place on the feet for most of the time. If Dustin can get him up against the fence and get into a clinch and try to take him down, I'm sure he'll go for it. If he does get him down, at this point, Dustin's a black belt, Max is a purple belt. So Dustin should have the edge on the ground, but Max is a lot better on the ground than he was then. He's probably not going to give up mount as easily. He's probably a little wiser if he's defending against an armbar, defending against a submission. He's not going to run into another submission, but it'll be interesting to see. I'm interested in the fight. I'm kind of disappointed Ferguson isn't in an interim contender fight. I look forward to seeing why he wasn't in this fight, what his plans are for his career, whether he's just hoping to fight the winner sometime before Khabib fights again, or if he thinks that he's getting the Khabib fight in November regardless, so he's just willing to wait and he's living humbly, isn't spending all his money, so he's got enough money to hang around in the meantime. So we'll have to wait and see where we go from there. Or maybe the thought is if Conor gets a fight soon with Cowboy, maybe he fights the winner of that. But who knows? Maybe Nate Diaz comes back too. That's another possibility. Nate was supposed to fight Dustin Poirier back at Madison Square Garden. Dustin got the hip injury, and Nate was just like, screw it, I'm not going to stay on this card. But maybe they can convince Nate to come back and fight Tony, so that's another option. So we'll have to wait and see.